Hello there, Murder Drones is always about the main characters N, V, J, and Uzi. However, I wanted to talk about the many side characters of the show that don't get as much spotlight and appreciation as they should. Some have more screen time than others, but they all have more screen time than J, so I guess J is somewhat of a side character in terms of how often she actually appears throughout the show. The first side character we should talk about is, well, the fireman. Brayden. Brayden is another one of Uzi's classmates. He doesn't speak much at all throughout the entire show, and he's meant more as a visual gag character of sorts, as during episode 1 through 3, his head's always on fire and continues to burn. This initial fire was caused by when Uzi took over Brayden's sentience in a flashback sequence during episode 3, The Promenade. The fire would continue to burn up into episode 4, Cabin Fever, when he is seen getting off the bus and he so casually puts out the fire, ending the gag. Pause. Not much is known about Brayden. We hear his voice in episode 4 as well, when he questions his reasoning for the field trip to the teacher. However, just when we finally hear him talk again for the first time, later in the episode when Uzi loses control to her solver program and she goes on a slaughter fest, killing dozens of campers, she eventually kills Brayden in cold blood. His death was very subtle and permanent, as we never saw or heard from him ever again. Another side character in Murder Drones, who is one of my favorites personally, is our favorite end simp, Rebecca. Rebecca is one of Lizzie's close friends, as we see her in episode 3, The Promenade, at the prom. And she usually sits with Lizzie and her other friends, and gets threatened to be banned from sitting together if she doesn't accept and forgive V for all her prior murders. And she finally settles, quote unquote. However, in episode 4, Cabin Fever, she had a bit more screen time and dialogue in the early parts of the episodes, and she starts quickly simping for N. Getting very intrigued to find out that he's actually a pilot, afterward, she asks N for a friend if he's the one who killed her family and are single. Later, she almost drowns and she shouts, "I can't swim," and gets caught by N and starts further simping for him. Great. However, Rebecca's time in the show would be short-lived, as it were. In the same episode, Uzi goes on her solver rampage, as per usual in this episode, and while Rebecca and Darren go to the cabin to go make out, gets cut in half by Uzi. Back at the campsite, she goes back to warn the other campers when she's cut in half, barely holding on to life, and dies of oil loss in the end. The next side character is Jay. No, I'm just joking, guys. Well, I guess in terms of screen time, she is sort of a side character, as it were. However, she's known as a main character, so I won't count her as a side one. Another side character that I want to give some spotlight is, well, the teacher, who is Uzi's teacher, and he first appears during the pilot episode and is seen watching Uzi's presentation on her railgun, but is not impressed, telling her repressed emotional baggage wasn't worth much on the rubric anyways. Teacher seems to hate his job very much, as he's never smiling and always looks exhausted. And an interesting fact about the teacher is that, well, he's actually voiced by Liam Vickers, the series creator, if you didn't know. No Glitch didn't make it. They did produce it, but they're not the series creator. A lot of people get that mixed up. Not everyone, but some people. He next appears in episode 3, and during that episode, he attends the prom as a staff member and is there just to watch over the students, but I doubt he cares what happens to them in the end, as he rolls his eyes and ever so casually sips from his bottle. And during Doll's rampage, he ends up leaving the prom, not really caring much about what he just saw, and just left. And his final appearance at the time of writing was during episode 4, Cabin Fever, where he is seen on top of the bus, not really supervising the students and having N and V do it for him instead, not really caring much about them. And while being absent for most of the episode, his latest appearance, at the time of me writing this however, was when he was in the bus heading home. He questions V about the recent disappearing campers. And while V was responsible for some of those deaths, Uzi was responsible for the grand majority of them, and to keep Uzi from being seen as some kind of murderer, which she kind of was if we're being honest here, takes the fall for it, calling Teacher an idiot. But Teacher is so unfazed by anything in his life, he ever so casually says, "No name calling, it was just a question." Teacher is definitely one of my favorite side characters, as I feel he's pretty relatable, and he just takes on life with the most unabsorbing way, which I really get. One of the most popular side characters in the series is, well, Thad. He first appears in the episode 1, The Pilot, and he's introduced as a joke stereotype character who only ever focuses on his sports and how much testosterone he has. But he's a robot, so that doesn't really make much sense now, does it? He quickly starts becoming a friend of Uzi's, making small appearances throughout the rest of the series. First episode he appears in, and then he also appears at the end fight scene, but does not directly fight, only ever attempting to protect the worker drone colony, and failing miserably, as usual, since he doesn't really have any sort of abilities that the murder drones would have, because he's just a worker, and he has no solver, so, him losing was kind of expected. Speaking of which, episode 2 there are many disappearances, and to combat this, Uzi, N, and Thad plan to go inside the worker drone colony and get to the bottom of it. While there, Sin grabs Thad and is quickly saved. But once he gets taken again, Uzi and N finally confront Sin and the person responsible for these missing drones. And while doing this, Sin attempts to use Thad to create a fake hologram, but this proves ineffective as the two don't fall for it. And when Thad is saved, he invites the two to his shindig, as it were. After this, we don't hear much from him from the rest of the episode. We don't see much of him after this, being mostly subjected to background shots. His next major role would be quite major in the show, as he got a much bigger part to play during episode 7, Mass Destruction. He returns, and he's walking about the surface with another side character, Lizzie, and the latter is seen texting someone that was thought to really just be her bestie V, but nothing has been confirmed yet, so that's just speculation right now. As well, Khan appears and is planning to rebuild the railgun back to its former glory and presumably destroy the remaining murder drones, such as Jay, and recruits both Thad and Lizzie to help. We don't see much during the episode, as the spotlight is usually on N and Uzi, but at the very end of the episode, Jay gets hit by a school bus of all things, by Khan, because he was the one driving it, and seemed intentionally done. And once Jay stands back up, she's greeted by Khan, Lizzie, and Thad charging up the railgun and will likely destroy her, just like how the original Uzi killed the original Jay. I don't know why I said original Uzi. Keep that. It's unclear if this Jay's consciousness somehow remembers what happened to the previous Jay that was killed during the pilot. However, I don't think that she would, as they wouldn't really make much sense considering they're two separate consciousnesses, and I don't know if that's even a word. They have two different minds, and as mentioned, they aren't the same person. And it's likely that Thad will have a big role again here as the main characters, and will fight in the final battle. While there are many more side characters throughout this show, it's really important to point out here that I mostly picked the most popular ones and the more main of the sides, because we would be here all day if I were to include every side background character. But I can always do a follow-up video on other side characters that are a little less known. Let me know down in the comments if I should cover more side characters throughout the show. Thanks for watching, subscribe, click on the video here, and buy some merch, link in the description, and well, as always, take care.